don't know if Dennis, I mean, it's sort of an ICT question to me, because I always wonder about the increasingly short lifespan, it seems, of every new device we get that is the backbone, of course, of all those wonderful things that technology does. Can you reconcile that?
Yeah, and I think this is a very important question. I think there's two things here. One broader discussion about the sort of overconsumption society where push and sell in the short term is starting to give way to a service society where you actually sell the service. So you hand in, and increasingly now when you buy a new phone, you give the other one back. And that is partly because of regulation of take-back system, etc. But the big trend, the other big trend, sort of the first one is that business is moving more from a product to service perspective because that's where they know they want to have customer loyalty, etc. The other one is rare metals. We are increasingly in a situation, especially when it comes to electronics, that there's not very much of these things. Throwing these on a waste dump is like, putting on your engagement ring and you're throwing it away each day. It costs a lot. The price of materials in these things, the more sophisticated they get, the more sophisticated electronics or materials are in it. So I think these converging trends, and EU just recently issued a report saying we are in sort of national security danger of not being a high-tech society because we can't secure these things. So I can't find any stronger way, but that requires some then leadership from business also saying we're ready for this, and policymakers realizing that this is not just a green thing, it's something much bigger, that we need to have this. And the Chinese have actually been leading in this, talking about a circular economy. And again, I would be very honest and say, working with China a lot, that has not only been driven by a pure environmental concern, but the fact that they realize that environmental resources are valuable.
Well, of course, I mean, you mentioned rare earth and China, of course. We know when it comes to the politics of that, we saw that last week in terms of the Chinese maybe slowing down their trade to Japan, and Japan responds by going into the trash and looking to recycle those rare earth metals themselves. So I definitely can see that going in the future. Sorry, did you want to?
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, please.
Yes, thank you. Well, just to mention, of course, the very concept of a green or sustainable building, of course, is composed of appropriate design, the right construction processes, but of course the selection of the right materials. So there's a lot of initiatives for labeling green building products so that they encompass their environmental footprint in their whole life cycle analysis. And of course, the mechanisms and certification or assessment systems for sustainable construction, they give a premium for those projects that include these products, these construction products that have a proof that they are safe in their whole life cycle assessment.
Next question. Do we have another person? Oh, so there's already got a microphone back there. Go ahead.
Hi, Nicole Pielmulter from Akamai Technologies. I just wanted to ask the panel about whether or not the business community should be sending a message to the policymakers regarding, given the powerful impact of public opinion and the recent negative influence of sort of the climate gate and the climate deniers on the acceleration or deceleration of climate policy. Should this group be sending a message to policymakers about trying to educate the public on the realities of climate change and also the positive influence it can have on economies, rather than the message right now people are hearing that it detracts from jobs?
Sorry, are you asking whether, I mean, it might be a backlash? Is that the question, or is it?
No, whether the business community should be sending a message to policymakers about strengthening the message to the public about the realities of climate change and the positive influence and the opportunities we have on enhancing the business economies.
Does anyone want to take that particular? Okay.
I have mixed feelings. I don't think a new generation would be particularly impressed if policymakers came out and say what's true and not. But I think it's very important if policymakers came out and supported both long-term education, of course, because educated people tend to understand what science is saying, but also education about how the current media system is working, because increasingly media is driven more by revenues from big companies who don't want to see these things and who are happy to see journalists report these kind of things, and also understand how you can search your own information. Because I think a new generation will be more critical in understanding where these things come from. So these media blasts, where climate gate, whatever you want to call it, will become less important. But I would also say that I think this is a very important question, because the closer we get to the need for transformative change, the bigger the tension is going to be in society. And some of the big powerful stakeholders are going to scream very high. And are we ready then for a more general public to understand that they're shouting not because they have the truth, but because they're trying to keep society back for where we need to go. So I think that discussion is important. And I want to come back also, what I was deeply impressed by business a year ago at the World Business Summit was that all the businesses that were there said, a big problem we have is our lobby group. We sit here on a small conference, and I'm sorry, but it's not the world media here, but then we go out on this room and the big powerful groups that are really pushing towards media are doing something very different. And many of us are part of those groups also. So that is a discussion that I would like to see more of also, the tension between the progressive companies that are transparent and those who work a little bit in the dark.
Right. You're right, it's not a level playing field by any means. I mean, lots of people say the only level playing field is the graveyard, so deal with it. But still, we do need to focus. What I think policy people need to focus also is on the positive. In terms of reducing emissions, it's not only about climate change, and climate change is real, but it's also about quality of life. It's also about your own health concerns. It's by reducing carbon, by reducing particulate matter, by reducing SO2, you're reducing acid rain, you're reducing cancer, you're reducing black lung disease, you're improving the overall environment for the society. So it is a societal issue. And it also makes economic sense, because where you have the transition to these technologies, not only is the quality of life improved, not only do we have environmental justice, much more so applied, but we also have an issue of economic growth. And you do have not only a green benefit in terms of environment, but a green benefit in terms of the economy as well. And politicians need to realize that. And a lot of times what we're seeing now because of the economic slump is fear-mongering and trying to scare people into, oh, if this industry goes away, or if somehow renewables are introduced, traditional jobs are going to go away. Yes, maybe smart grid will get rid of the traditional meter readers, but those meter readers can then become maintenance people for the smart grid applications, or they can become the ones that now maintain your appliances in the home, because your home is becoming smarter, because your energy service now goes, as I said, down to the appliance, down to it being a zero energy house or a net energy producer home. It goes to your electric vehicle. Your traditional electrician will be maintaining the fuel supply of the car. So the jobs are there, the opportunities are there, the future is there. We just need to focus on it, frame it, and talk about it and have access to the media, because really we don't. It is not a level playing field.
John, did you want to?
Yeah, just very briefly, I agree to your point, and I think that we're trying to do it actually. We've heard that in this conference, trying to convey a positive message, trying to show and insist on this as a good business case, and developing our business, changing our business, for it to become a good business case to deliver, for example, if we're talking about climate change, low carbon solutions, creating value and prosperity. And it's a cornerstone of our strategy for the future development of our business. The objective is business integration, and in there is also the link to programs on responsible lobbying, so that we're saying the same thing both when we're in closed circles and when we're on the stage as now. So having said that, and having acknowledged the role that we have to play in conveying that positive message, I think that for it to really accelerate, I think that the key actor in society for that are our NGOs, think tanks, thought leaders. Because I think that mostly still we're met with a problem-oriented approach from NGOs and other opinion leaders around climate change. It's fair. I mean, we take our own emissions very seriously. We set new aggressive goals, just set new goals now. But if there is not that dual approach from opinion leaders, it's very hard for a company to go out and drive that alone. That's close to impossible. So, yes, we're part of that challenge and that task, but we definitely need a dual approach from organizations, opinion leaders as well.
real quickly, as a consumer goods company, I would say that some industry sectors and some companies have more opportunities in this space than others to communicate directly with consumers, and some take advantage of that more than others as well. But what comes to mind was was a program that we activated last year in Copenhagen called Hopenhagen. Some of you noticed it. And I think Siemens is here, and they were also co-sponsors of that along with SAP. But I wanted to point out that was a consumer-facing program. It wasn't directed at the policymakers and the negotiators. It was to mobilize the civil society, basically, and provide information, so it was part educational. It was very solutions-based, and we've talked about moving to a solutions-based approach now. It was talking about what could be done and very hopeful and optimistic. But I wanted to say that it reached 6 million people. And so it's basically 1 out of every 1,000 people in the world were reached by that campaign. So there are opportunities like that we perhaps could leverage even better.
Let's take one last question right there.
Thank you very much. My name is Nelly Correa. I'm with the Tecnológico de Monterrey. And, well, I think that this meeting, the happening of this meeting is of huge importance for the whole world. And this business for the environment, we're trying to understand how economic systems are linked to natural systems. But they are both, as Georgina has just very clearly expressed, they are both linked directly with social systems as well. So we are in fact talking about wealth, but not just economic wealth, but also, wealth as the economic capital, but also natural capital and social capital. So this meeting is about the well-being in all of its dimension. I would like to suggest all of us to not continue talking of just renewable energy sources, but to think on sustainable energy sources, because I think that not every renewable has to be sustainable as a direct consequence. So, this is just a suggestion, and I would not like to add complexity to this very complex discussion, but being oceans of paramount importance on climate regulation and also of huge importance for trade and food production, I would have liked to hear something about oceans as well in here. And we have all be talking about green economics and green thing. And I would like to quote Sylvia Earle, and it's a very, very simple quote. And it just says, remember, no blue, no green. Thank you.
It's funny, I couldn't agree more. I spent some time with Sylvia Earle just earlier last month, and you're right, oceans are absolutely the issue that often gets overlooked when it comes to environmentalism, in part because, of course, it's so complicated to try to deal with them. Most of the oceans are beyond the control of any one country. For that reason, we have the law of the sea, but it's something to look into the forward, both in terms of, obviously, the impact climate change will have on oceans, but also how we can, both including business, not just fishing, but going beyond that, can really try to keep them sustainable. I know we've gone into coffee time, and I'm sure everyone needs it very badly right now, so I just wanted to thank my panel very much, and thank you for paying attention and for putting together the work that really made this statement possible. Thank you.
Thank you.